Today's story comes from somewhere I'd rather not name specifically. Let's just say it was somewhere in the northern outskirts of Hong Kong. I hope you'll understand why I'm keeping it vague. Before I got into this story, I looked it up on Google Maps, and there's already something built on that site now. So it's best I don't identify the exact location. All I'll say is, northern Hong Kong. Somewhere out there. There used to be a nursing home in that area. The facility had been shut down, and the plan was to demolish it and build a corporate retreat, you know the kind. A place where company employees come for seminars, training sessions, that sort of thing. The demolition was still weeks away, but apparently outsiders had been constantly sneaking in, causing all kinds of incidents. So our security firm got hired to guard the site. 3 of us were sent out. I'll call my co-workers James and David. We were told it was a 20-day assignment, and the pay was better than a full month's salary. At the time, during the pandemic, work had completely dried up. So when they said the money was that good, we didn't think twice. The 3 of us packed up and headed down. But from the very first day, things went sideways. We punched in the nursing home's address, and no matter how close we got, the navigator kept rerouting. Recalculating. It just couldn't find the road. So we pulled into a small village nearby and asked some of the elderly locals for directions. We explained we were security personnel heading to the old nursing home. The moment we said that, their expressions changed completely. They got very serious, very fast, asking us what business we had there, what we were planning to do. We explained we were just there for work. Not trespassing, not snooping around. Once they heard that, they relaxed and gave us directions. We thanked them and were about to head out when the village elder came forward. He told us the village had been getting a lot of outsiders lately, and every time strangers showed up, police cars and ambulances would follow. The whole neighborhood had become noisy and disturbed. That's why the locals had been so wary of us. We told him we understood completely. And just as we were leaving, he called out one last thing. If you go around to the back of that hospital, there's something there. Don't go near it. Just like that, out of nowhere. We asked him to repeat it. Behind the hospital. There's something back there. Don't go near it. Yes, sir. Understood. And we drove off. Following the locals' directions, we found it, up on a hillside, like a fortress. 2 4-story buildings. The moment we stepped through the gate, something felt off. A building like that, hidden in the middle of the hills, it felt deeply out of place. Unbalanced. Eerie. The 3 of us started walking the perimeter to get the lay of the land before our shift began. That's when James called us over. And just like the village elder said, there was something behind the hospital. It was a church. Not a real church, more like a portable structure. Bigger than a standard shipping container but built from insulated sandwich panels. Painted in reddish-orange tones. On top, a cross. On the front, a sign with the hospital's name followed by the word church. Ah. So that's what the elder was warning us about, we thought. We didn't dwell on it. We went back to the guard post, set up the CCTV system, and reported to our team leader. He told us not to worry about the church. It's getting demolished anyway. Just do your job. Our orders were clear: patrol every hour, report immediately after each round, don't get involved in anything unrelated to our duties. Starting at 10 p.m. that first night, we took turns going out one at a time. The 2 buildings were 4 stories each, and the grounds were huge, almost too much for one person to cover. But with only 3 of us, we made it work. James went out on the first patrol. A few minutes later, his radio crackled. Hey, 2nd floor of the main building. Someone in a black hoodie just saw me and ran. Check the CCTV. We checked. Nothing on camera. I joined James on the 2nd floor. We searched thoroughly, nothing. No one. No footprints, no trace. I swept the third and fourth floors, James took the first. David stayed on the monitors. Not a thing. We went back to the post. The rest of that night passed without incident. The second night, David didn't radio in, he called me directly on my cell phone. "Hey, where's James right now?" "James is here with me at the post." Silence. About 10 seconds of complete silence. Then, his voice shaking, "Come to the second floor. Now. Something's really wrong. Just tell me what's happening, actually, switch to video." He switched to video call. And I saw it, someone who looked exactly like James, crouched on the emergency staircase landing of the second floor, laughing. We could hear the laughter coming through the phone. James was standing right next to me. I didn't tell James what I'd seen. I just went to find David. But by the time I got there, the figure had already bolted into the stairwell and vanished, David told me. We knew someone had gotten in. I told James to watch the monitors, and David and I swept the entire facility, main building, annex, everything. We found nothing. But we had all seen it. Me on the video call, David in person. And we both heard the laughter through the phone speaker. If this was a ghost, fine, I can accept that ghosts sometimes show up on cameras. But laughter? That was hard to explain away. Logically, it had to be a person. The whole point of our assignment was that outsiders kept breaking in. We searched for nearly an hour and a half. Nothing. On the way back to the post, we passed the church. That's when we heard it. Faint piano music, hymn accompaniment, drifting softly from inside. Both David and I heard it clearly. We were scared. We just spent an hour chasing something that disappeared into thin air, and now hymn music was coming from a locked, abandoned church. But someone could be in there. David opened the door. Nothing inside. And the moment the door opened, the music stopped. We looked at each other. Didn't say a word. Just decided on the spot, don't tell James. What James doesn't know won't hurt him. We went back to the post. That night ended in chaos, but we got through it. We returned to our lodging to sleep. That's when David started groaning, thrashing around like something was crushing him in his sleep. We shook him awake. He kept muttering, over and over, "I'm sorry. I'm sorry. I won't do it again. I'm sorry." James and I slapped him, threw water on his face. Eventually got him up. When he came to, he told us about his dream. He'd been inside the church. There were people there, they looked like the patients from the nursing home. Each one held a Bible in one hand. And a syringe in the other. They came at him. We asked him if he could work. He said he'd push through. So despite everything, we dragged ourselves back to our posts. During the shift handover, a memo had come through from the team leader. A short film production crew was coming to shoot at the abandoned hospital, apparently they'd gotten clearance from the construction company. Our job was to assist them. I called the team leader immediately. I told him everything, the figure that looked like James, the church music, the dream. I said people were coming in now and something was clearly wrong here. He said, the construction company approved it. My hands are tied. Make sure nothing happens. I told him what if something does happen. He said, then make sure it doesn't. That night, 12 crew members arrived. Because of COVID restrictions on gatherings, they split into smaller groups to film in shifts. The early hours went fine. The director came to me and asked about the church. I told him it had been there since we arrived, and I strongly advised him not to go inside. The director's eyes lit up. His film had an occult theme. He said this was exactly what he'd been looking for. David and I physically stood in front of the church door to block them. We told them what had happened, every detail. The director clapped his hands with excitement. Said he'd been dreaming of a location like this. Eventually, we had no choice. We opened the door. But we stepped aside. After what we'd experienced, neither of us was going back in there. 2 hours passed. No radio contact. We started to think maybe the place only reacted to us, that these outsiders were going to be fine. Then the static hit. Our radio gave off that hissing, crackling noise. And through it, the piano hymn music we'd heard before. All three of us heard it at the same time. We ran. We reached the church. 5 crew members were collapsed outside the entrance. We went through the door, the other 5 were kneeling on the floor, arms raised toward the ceiling, weeping, screaming, their eyes completely vacant. We tried to pull them away. James and David are both over 200 pounds. They couldn't move those people. Whatever force those crew members had, it threw us back. We called the team leader. He said call the police and ambulances. We did. Officers arrived, paramedics arrived, they dragged the crew members out of the church one by one. The moment they crossed the threshold, the strange behavior stopped. They fell unconscious. All 10 were loaded into ambulances. The team leader came down the next morning. For once, he had the decency to ask if we were okay. Then we really laid into him, said we'd warned him, that we'd told him exactly what was happening, and he'd sent those people in anyway. He told us to get in the car. We were going somewhere. He took us to the village where we'd asked for directions on our first day. To a house with an old black roof, weathered and worn. Inside, a man in his 60s was waiting for us, dressed in traditional clothes. No obvious signs of being a shaman's home, no colored banners, no incense. Just a plain old house. But the moment I walked in, I saw it. Behind the man, there was a spirit standing there. And when that spirit noticed us, it covered its nose and started dry heaving. The man came outside and threw mixed grains over us, handful after handful, for 10 straight minutes. It hurt. Then he brought us inside. He asked immediately, "Did any of you bring anything out of that hospital?" David and I said no. James went quiet. Then, slowly, he pulled a cross necklace out of his pocket. He'd found it on the 2nd floor. It looked like real gold. He'd pocketed it, figured he'd sell it. The man slapped James across the face. "You woke them up. You picked this up and that's when everything started. You were the trigger." James just stared at him. We all did. "How does a necklace cause all that?" The man told us he'd been to that hospital before. Every time outsiders broke in, they ended up inside that church, possessed. He'd been containing the energy coming out of it. And now, thanks to James pocketing that necklace, whatever had been dormant woke up. We drove back to the hospital. The man took us to the church entrance. Standing in front of that door, I felt something I'd never felt before, genuine fear. I've seen spirits most of my life, and I'd always been able to stay calm. But standing there, my hands were shaking. He opened the door. There had been no wind all day. But the moment it opened, a rush of air blasted out from inside, strong enough to move our hair. And with it came a smell. Foul, heavy, rotten. The team leader, David, and James couldn't smell it. But the shaman and I both caught it immediately. It's a smell I've come to associate with vengeful spirits, entities tied to suffering, to despair, to death. This was bad. We both stepped inside, and immediately backed out. I had a splitting headache, like being struck in the back of the skull. The shaman confirmed, something very dark was in there. We told him about the film crew, the 10 people now unconscious in the hospital. He turned to the team leader and said, "Get them. Tonight. All 10 of them. Bring them here." The team leader didn't have that kind of pull. But he managed to get word to the construction company's project director, who, it turned out, was the film director's personal contact. Through a series of calls, they arranged private medical transport. That night, all 10 crew members were brought back to the site. Along with the shaman came 3 other spirit workers and their musicians, a full ceremonial team. They set up in front of the church. Yes, a shamanic ritual. In front of a church. It was deeply strange. But people needed to be saved. The musicians began to play. The shamans, each holding their ceremonial tools, swords, spears, staffs, began to move. The youngest, a woman, took the center position. The others circled her, dancing, shouting, driving out whatever was inside. After 3 hours, 3 solid hours, things started to go quiet. Then the senior shaman shouted, "This is the real part. Pay attention now. Poltergeist activity." The church door, which we had secured with a chain and padlock, swung open on its own. And through that doorway came a figure. Dressed like a pastor. Formal suit. Bible in one hand. Cross in the other. I'll just call it the pastor ghost. It looked at the shamans and smiled, dismissively. Like they were nothing. Then it opened the Bible and began to sing. That hymn we've been hearing, the piano music, the accompaniment, it wasn't from an instrument at all. It was this thing, singing. The sound hit us like a physical force. The shamans and I could hear it. The others couldn't. I grabbed my head, retching. One shaman started bleeding from the nose. The young woman at the center collapsed, convulsing. It was pure chaos. Then, I blacked out. When I came to, it was morning. I was lying on the ground. The team leader, David, and James were standing around me. The shamans came over. "Are you all right?" I said I couldn't remember anything. "What happened?" One of them said, "Are you by any chance the grandson of someone named?" And she said my grandfather's name. "Yes." "And the son of?" "My father's name." "Yes." She nodded slowly. "You're the reason we made it through." Apparently, while everyone was falling apart around me, I had suddenly stood up, walked straight toward the pastor ghost, raised my hand, and said something. No one could make out the words. But the shaman said it wasn't me speaking, it was an ancestral spirit, a guardian deity from my family's lineage. We come from a long line of hereditary shamans. And that ancestor came through me and did what the rest of them couldn't. The pastor ghost was dispelled. The 10 crew members woke up. Everyone was okay. The team leader contacted the construction company immediately, tear down the church first. Forget the hospital. That church comes down now. We all watched the demolition. At first, the excavator couldn't break through. Not a single panel would come loose, even though the building was made of flimsy insulated panels. The shaman had to come back out, walk the perimeter reciting incantations, scatter mixed grains, burn paper offerings, and only then did the church start to crumble. When the walls came down, we found a back room. Inside, a shamanic altar. A full spirit shrine. A church, with a shamanic shrine inside. So what was that entity? Was it the ghost of a pastor? Or something else entirely, a spirit worker who had adopted the outward form of a pastor? That would explain why our spiritual abilities barely worked on it. We were done. All 3 of us pulled out. The team leader could find someone else. He did. For about a week, a new crew would show up, see something, and flee. One after another. The church had been torn down, but the spirits of the nursing home itself, including whatever had been mimicking James, those were still in there. Eventually, the team leader called us again. Double the pay. Only 10 days left. Please come back. We told him exactly what we thought of that offer. In language I won't repeat here. He reported us to headquarters. Got demoted, from team leader to regular staff. But here's the thing we found out later, he had known. He'd known the whole time what was going on at that site. Why else would he have taken us straight to that shaman in the village? He knew, and he sent us in anyway without a word. 10 days later, the nursing home was fully demolished without incident. When I checked Google Maps recently, there's now what looks like a resort or retreat up there. Reviews say the view is beautiful. Well, if nothing's haunting it anymore, I suppose that's about right. There's one more thing I should mention. James eventually told us, after everything was over, that during the ritual, he had been briefly possessed. He'd found himself inside the church and had seen me. Said I was on my knees, both hands raised, saying something he couldn't understand. It scared him badly. When he snapped out of it, he was back at the guard post. And he saw me there, at the post, like nothing had happened. That's when he realized, he'd seen a spirit that looked like me. David had seen the James look-alike spirit. And James had seen the me look-alike. Both of them had kept quiet about it the whole time, didn't want to scare each other. Even now, when we get together for drinks, this story comes up. It still gets to me. That's the end of episode 1. Thank you for listening.